2023, I had one of the worst days of my competition career. I was a fresh blue belt, still riding that early confidence high, and I came to Midwest Finishers 16 for a super fight at 205. And I figured I'd walk in, handle business, and walk out. My opponent? He looked like he might have weighed 205 in middle school, but not anymore. I hit an early leg lock attempt, but he slipped out, and from there, he held me down for 8 straight minutes. No matter what I tried, I couldn't escape. My frames broke, my hips just stalled, and every battle I picked, I just lost. After a minute, it was like my body was still fighting, but my mind had already stepped outside to watch myself and just winced from the sidelines. I could hear my family and my teammates, people who thought I was good at jiu-jitsu, trying to keep my spirits up, but I couldn't do a thing. And that's what made it worse, because being submitted is one moment of failure, but being pinned is 8 minutes of it. It's a slow, public dismantling where you lose every small battle on the way down. And of course, the perfect day had a perfect ending. A fresh opponent followed my exhausted self through a shoulder roll and finished with a rear naked. It was an extremely bitter loss, but that day, I made a decision. Nobody was ever going to control me like that again. Before that demoralizing defeat, escapes were just another box to check off in the pantheon of more important jiu-jitsu skills. After that match, they became an art I vowed to master. For over a year, I worked furiously on every escape I could, positional or submission. And I had a revelation. If I wanted to call myself a martial artist, it wasn't acceptable to acknowledge that something dangerous existed and leave a hole in my game shaped exactly like it. I would never accept a fatal gap in my defense again. So I tried everything. Some escapes I loved, others I found less effective, but I gave every single one a fair shot. I studied the greats, Danaher, Tonin, Jeff Glover, Gordon, Craig, and many more. I took what inspired me from their work and pressure tested it night after night. Not only could I escape over and over, I could punish them for ever making contact. My goal was no longer to just be uncontrollable. I wanted to be dangerous to touch. I wanted to be a human dart throw. A few weeks ago, I put my escape game to the test in the advanced division against guys walking around at 230 pounds while I was maybe 210 on a good day, and I gave them the one thing you're never supposed to give away in competition: control. Here you can see this guy really wants to move to north-south. It's actually really difficult to maneuver people into the pins that you want, and it was even more difficult on this day, I found out, to actually let someone pin me voluntarily. It's pretty difficult to do that in a competition mindset, even though you know you're there for that reason. So I was kind of doing some light guard retention to keep him in side control as opposed to going north-south, but eventually I kind of just gave up on this idea and allowed him to pin me in north-south. Immediately, I start penduluming my legs and trying to get an inside knee and elbow. Once I have an inside knee and elbow, I'm starting to turn and threaten K-guard, and this guy tries to grab the outside of my thigh to stop me from throwing my leg over, which allows me to go into a dilemma where I'm able to start putting my leg and extending through his arm into a coil lock right here to get the tap. My second match was quite a bit longer. This one went the full 6 minutes, and this one was more back and forth. My goal that I told myself was that if I was able to finish off of counter offense or sub, then I would continue to go for it. But if I just regarded, then I wanted to reset and give them another pin in order to get as many pin escapes as possible in a match. So this guy tried to sit out into a reverse side control on me, and I immediately started trying to hip bump him. He was super heavy, so it was hard for me to get up onto my arm and hand in order to gain some head height there, but it was still enough to create a scramble that I was able to regard out of. And again, we're playing half guard here. I kind of need to make it look like I'm actually trying to keep a guard so that I can have them act normal as well. But this guy is just feeling like something's off about this, and he's almost not really taking the bait in terms of trying to just take all the inside positions. So I'm kind of just letting him have my arms down towards the floor to try to encourage him to come up and actually connect to me. But it's becoming a little bit difficult here. And again, he opts to sit out. I'm trying to keep him from doing that one again since we already did it. I'd like to get some other looks from this guy. So again, trying to basically look like I'm trying to kick guard, and then I let my guard go. So he looks like he passed. He's doing a good job of keeping his right leg low, so it's hard for me to get my knee in, but I'm able to anyway with a reverse shrimp. just to show how easy it is to get a side guard, even on bigger opponents like this who know how to configure their body to keep them out. So now he's kind of doing a scoop grip cross with a high knee shield. Again, I'm trying to coax him into grabbing me, and I love this pin as well. I consider this a pin, chest to chest half. I was able to slide my butterfly hook in before he was able to inch up completely, and that allowed me to grab his tricep and his head, put his head outside of his tricep, bring it to the floor, and go into sumigeshi. As he popped back up, I was able to jump on his head again, because from a failed sumigeshi, it's always a good option to go to the front headlock since there's going to be a scramble. Thought about going into a crucifix. I got a little gummed up. I have a hurt thumb right now, and the tape makes my hand extra frictiony. So when I grabbed his head with my left hand, it just didn't feel like the guillotine would go in nicely, even though it was well set up. There's just a lot of friction on the neck with that tape for some reason. It's almost like having a gi just on my hand. And so I tried to opt to something else. It just felt a little awkward on that side. Now again, he's at a body lock this time. Basically, I'm not really sure what he wanted to do here. He ended up switching out, and he's just trying to lift my hips up, which is kind of strange. But again, this is something I cover in a new course that I've just dropped. It's called the Human Dart Frog Side Control. And this is to help you become a counter striker and generate offense from everywhere so that you're dangerous to touch from any position. When he's starting to lift my hips up like that, it's making it so that nothing's really happening. And since he has a tight waist, we cover this concept in my course. We can still come up. We just can't move out. So I just come up on him, and then he has to try to fight to put me back down, and I almost end up taking his back. I just got a little bit stuck behind his tricep, so I couldn't quite finish the job here. And then he ended up just trying to be safe and pull out of a possible triangle here. But again, I'm happy to be able to have as many reps as possible with these huge guys, just to show how easy it is to get out of these pins, even when they're this big. Another problem here is that sometimes you can't really stop people from attempting to try to go into legs and things like that. If they don't want to pass, it's hard to make them pass, even if you're trying to make it look realistic. So he dropped back into an ankle lock, which I was happy about. I like trying to defend these because it's good practice. A lot of people like spamming them. He fell back without any kind of anchoring on the hip. So like I talked about, I'm not just interested in pin escapes, I'm interested in all kinds of defense. So he just put his legs outside of my hip, which makes it really difficult to actually generate any breaking power. And I was able to come up for a sweep off of that. And then I start unlocking his legs foot to foot in order to get inside position and start leg riding and doing power rides where we can start knee riding our opponent and things like that. The ref resets us here, and we're back in action in the middle of the mat. I did tell the ref what I was doing, just so he was aware, and he was fully supportive. Thought it was an interesting project, but I ended up just trying to control the bottom player from the top. Obviously, it'd be a little bit ridiculous for me to just drop again and let him try to pass, but I'm trying to basically stay on top here and look for his back. Once I get into this type of position, I like to force possible katagatamis. So I'm trying to get his left arm over his head. And again, I'm just continuing this sequence because it's from a defensive sequence. So that was kind of the only way it would make it possible for me to really win any of the matches, just because giving up these pins right away is so difficult to actually score and get back in the action within 6 minutes. So my challenge was to try to win the tournament while giving up pins consecutively and hoping to just go from defense to offense. So I won the last one on points, and here we have another big boy that I'm going to showcase some of the moves in the two instructionals I've just dropped, called the Human Dart Frog and the Scrambler's Gambit. The Scrambler's Gambit is all about octopus guard and how to actually develop the skill of scrambling. So here, my opponent is pinning me in side control again. He's got a really good tight connection with his elbow and ear, or his shoulder and ear, but I'm still able to get my side control back in. He ends up being really, really tight to me, to the point where we just kind of get into a full butterfly with a body lock. I think about trying to like forward shift him here, but it seems like a lot of energy and I don't really want to waste that early on in the match. I didn't know how long it was going to go. So I let him go to chest half guard since I want to showcase this anyway. And again, he's sitting out like his teammate was, and this time I've hip bumped him over, and that's another move that we go into in the Scrambler's Gambit. This is a really nice option for when your opponent sits out and chest-to-chest pins. And again, since it went from a defensive to an offensive cycle, I've just tried to stay up on top. I wanted to really see how well I could melt this guy, because I could tell he was very strong and powerful, and I wanted to see if I was able to ride this guy out for the remainder of the match. But the way that I'm doing pins here is different than how he was, where I'm trying to pull all of the space away and make sure that my knee is always in the insertion points on his hips, so that it's hard for him to get any inside position. And then I just know when to posture and when to come back down with my chest, so it makes it hard for him to kip and knee elbow escape. And from here, I was able to control him in mount for a long amount of time. I was able to look for katagatamis, as well as just overall melting the opponent by putting my chest and coming up into a high mount. So I'm putting my chest up onto their face, bringing my legs up so high that my knees are inside of his elbows. So again, these are all concepts that we'd be going over in the instructionals that are up on the site. You can get them at the link in bio. You can check out my store tab on my channel, and you can also check out the pinned comments for those. But these are concepts that are super important, and a lot of people overlook them. This guy appears to have overlooked them. You know, he was a good opponent, but these are things that people don't find very interesting, but they're so interesting when you see them in action, and they're really the hidden key to becoming somebody who's uncontrollable no matter the size difference, and that's really what's important. So from here, for example, he's just trying to bridge me off, but he doesn't have any inside position with his arms, and I actually have an arm extended above his head, and since my hips are so high, it's very, very difficult for him to actually bridge me off and use any of his strength, because he's not translating any of his power from his hips into my hips to move me and move my base. I'm able to start putting my head down onto the floor for additional base as well. And again, guys, this guy's much bigger than me, much stronger than me, and the ability to understand pin escapes allows you to also understand the reverse side of it, which is pinning people, obviously. So your pins will get better as you understand how to do pin escapes more. And the other aspect of this is that you get to be on the enjoyable side of it, where you are demoralizing the other person instead of being demoralized. As you saw in the earlier clip where I showed that horrible match from 2 years ago, that was me on the other end of this. And now it feels so much better to be able to come into a match and know that I am most likely going to be doing the demoralizing to someone as opposed to the other way around. While this was happening, I could just hear this guy physically melting underneath me, feeling so much panic, so much pressure, and I just understood where he was coming from, honestly. I've been there, done that, and it sucks. You just really need to invest in the ability to escape pins against really good opponents. It's such an important skill. Right here, he's doing a better job trying to get a cross hit post, and we were running out of time, so I was looking for a sub. I pull him over, I dismount, and I'm trying to get into basically the chancery position or a dorsal kimura. He does a big explosive bridge, which makes me fall over and have to get back into north-south to stop him from just clearing it and resetting to neutral. And so I've got my elbow, again, inside position on his arms, throw through, he rolls into me, and I just get a ankle senkaku here for the win.